There we go. Our next category is electronics, and it's sponsored by Summit Interconnect, a privately held PCB manufacturer with field application engineers across North America. With top-of-the-line equipment and redundant facilities, Summit is the clear choice when selecting a manufacturer for mission-critical PCB designs. The company's 8 high-tech facilities offer customers a complete portfolio of PCB services from high-max, low-volume programs, including HDI rigid, flex, assembly, and quick-turn prototypes. And the finalist for this category is 100x audio digital to analog performance improvement. And to present, we have John LaGrue. So welcome, John.
Hello. SAE Media, thank you. This is great. Judges. My favorite Buckminster Fuller quote. So I'm John. I'm the founder of Millennia Music and Media Systems. We make the most used mic preamp for film scoring, classical music, and acoustic jazz. We have over 50,000 channels of this mic preamp in use worldwide. We were inducted into the NAMM Technology Hall of Fame in 2019. If you've watched a movie today or listened to music, chances are you've heard a Millennia recording. So in 2013, I had a dream, literally woke up with a new audio architecture. It's kind of a long story, but I'd been thinking a long time about architectures, and it just sort of was there. And I went into my office that morning, and I erased my whiteboard, and I put this idea as much as I could on the whiteboard, and I've been working on this idea for 12 years. And this is the result. It's the IMERSIV D1 digital to analog converter. I brought a sample there. It's sitting on the bar. If anybody would like to see it, there's some literature over there too. This D to A converter improves today's very best D to A conversion specification by 100x at least. That's today's very best. It improves it by 100x in dynamic range, linearity, noise reduction, and THD plus N at atmospheric levels. And these are the critical aspects of audio. So how do we improve audio by 100x? The best analogy I've found is called high dynamic range photography. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's actually in some cell phones now. So in HDR photography, we don't just take one photo, we take multiple images of a single object. And each image is taken at a different aperture, say f/16, f/8, f/2.8, and so forth. Some take many more photos. Then we use a digital signal processor to intelligently combine the very best aspects of each photo into a high dynamic range photo. This turns out to be almost a perfect analogy to what we're doing with audio. And we call it HDR, High Dynamic Range Audio, HDRA. We've received so far 3 domestic and other international patents, and we have more patents in the works. So here's how it works. We start with a digital signal, conventional digital signal, and then we break it into 2 pathways, a low path and a high path. The low path is very low-level audio, very quiet, which is just like low-light photography. The high path is very loud audio, which is just like a very bright photo. And in the same way, we use digital signal processing to extract the very best aspects of each one, which you couldn't do on a single path. And then we use DSP to sum them at the output, giving us 168 dB or 28 bits of dynamic range. This is HDRA, multipath processing. And you can see, compared to today's very best single path legacy audio, we're 40 dB greater in all the critical parameters, which is 100x, 40 dB, 100x. So there have been 3 dynamic paradigm shifts in the 140-year history of audio. Of course, the original paradigm was Thomas Edison in the 1880s with the phonograph. It gave us about 20 dB of dynamic range. The first paradigm shift happened because of the vacuum tube in the 1920s, electric audio. This gave us about 50 dB of dynamic range. The second paradigm shift was magnetic tape in the 1950s, which gave us about 75 dB of dynamic range, which is about a 25 dB improvement over the first paradigm shift. And the third paradigm shift was digital audio, which gave us about 95 dB of dynamic range, and today that's grown to about 130 dB. So you can put that on a graph. From 1880 to today, the average improvement of linearity dynamic range has been about 0.8 dB per year on a long moving average. But 70% of this growth is attributed to just 3 paradigm shifts, step functions, which we've just talked about. The first, electric audio. The second, magnetic tape. And the third, digital audio. HDRA, high dynamic range audio, is actually the 4th paradigm shift. It's the greatest improvement in audio dynamic range in the history of audio. Nothing has given that level of step function as what we've done. So keep in mind, this isn't about loudness. We're not making everything louder. We're making everything quieter. We're pushing our noise limits down 40 dB. So what's next? It's my goal to apply HDRA processing to every element in the signal path, and I know how to do this. You start with microphones using a dual path microphone system, a dual path ADC, and so forth. Here's a multipath power amplifier. This is one of our patents. Here's the entire roadmap. You start with microphones into preamps, ADCs into a 32-bit perfect DAW, D to A, power amplifier, and summing, giving you 170 dB dynamic range from microphone to power amplifier at the very end. A couple years ago, I got a call from NASA, from Anthony Yu at Goddard, and he said, I hear you're the preamp guy. I said, okay, that's great. We have a mission we're working on. We need a preamp that's 10 dB better performance than what you have in your audio products, which today are the highest dynamic range available in audio. Can you do it? And I said, okay, I'll try. And it took 1.5 years. Applying HDRA technology, we actually exceeded, for this gravity wave mission that's going up in 2034, we exceeded NASA's spec. We achieved minus 145 dBu EIN. And now I'm applying this to audio. So it's a pretty big deal. Any application that uses transducers or conversion, A to D or D to A conversion, can benefit dramatically from HDRA processing, including neonatal imaging, medical, neural sensors, when you see all the sensors that can greatly improve the sensitivity, bioacoustic microscopy, non-destructive testing, acoustic emission monitoring, sonar and hydrophone, gravity wave detection, gas spectroscopy, seismic testing. These can be improved by at least an order of magnitude, if not more, using this technology. And of course, audio equipment and audio test equipment, which we're developing as well. That's it. That's what I've got. Thank you.
Questions, judges? Anyone at the back? We have one at the back.
Can you give some examples of where you used this, actually applied it in what could be considered a commercial type of operation?
Yeah. Well, I've been working on the first commercial product for 12 years. And there it is right there. It's sitting on the bar. We've been shipping it now in production for a couple months. So it's real. It's actually happening.
And what's the application for that it's going into?
Right now, this is pure audio. So our main focus is professional audio, but also for home audio and elsewhere. But you can see many other things coming.
And would I, with my aging hearing, notice the difference?
You would. Oh, God. Yeah. I don't have it hooked up, but I could.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned that you had 50 beta testers that you were getting feedback from.
Yes.
And that you were planning to start selling this, and it sounds like you actually have. Can you tell me what your revenues are to date, and what your profit margins are that you are looking at the moment, and how are you going to reduce the cost of producing this?
Yeah, it's interesting. Our main, we're getting into the weeds now, but our main dealer is called Sweetwater. And they're the biggest retailer in the country of this kind of product. And they're going to have this live on their site in about 2 weeks. I was just there last week and get over 100 salespeople, gave the whole thing. We were in the studio. They got to hear it. They flipped out. But we're selling probably 2 or 3 a week right now.
So how many has that resulted to date, and when did you start selling?
The beta test period was when we started we went to mastering engineers. Mastering is the process of after you mix your song and it's just about ready to be released, it goes to a mastering engineer who then polishes it and makes sure it's perfect for release. This is perfect for mastering engineers. They need to hear precisely what's going on. We went to about 50 professional mastering engineers. Over 30 have purchased their unit to date. Yeah, so 60% acceptance rate. And if you go to the website, they all have comments, and they're just like over the top. They just say, this isn't just a little improvement, it's a big, big improvement in audio.
Okay, so one follow-up question here. I noticed the unit you have over there is fairly big for what I'm going to ask you now, but can this be integrated into hearing aids?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's my ultimate goal, besides getting HDRA into the entire signal path from microphone to power amp, is to get it miniaturized into integrated circuits. Right now, that box has over 1,500 components, because this is not easy. It's really complex. We've given Mauser a lot of money. Which, by the way, I've been working with Mauser since it was a little 6-page catalog that got mailed out. Yeah, that long. God, I'm old. And this can be reduced. Every function in that box can be reduced to an IC. You can put it on an IC. It's just a matter of time. And I think eventually multipath audio architecture will be the next paradigm of all audio. I think there's no way we can do it in single path right now. We're stuck. You have a noise floor and you have a dynamic limit. And if you try to move one down, the other one comes down. If you try to move one up, this comes up. When you break an audio signal into 2 paths, now you can reduce your noise dramatically. Nothing changes here. And you can raise your headroom. Nothing changes here. This is the way forward for anything that's using transducers, A to Ds, D to As.
We have a question in the front.
Yeah, thanks. I was wondering, you've got the sound engineer stuff down, but what do you think is the next application? You listed many. So what do you think is number 2 on the list?
Of that long list?
Yeah.
We've been talking with some seismic companies, and they need this. Also, audio, yes, audio listening, but also audio test equipment. You can't test this with today's equipment. The noise level is so low, it's about 25 dB below our best audio test equipment. You plug it in, nothing changes. You can't measure it. So we're developing test equipment that you can actually test multipath performance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, great questions. Thank you, John. Okay,